Hi, I'm Jill Deacon. Welcome to another episode of A Love Affair with the Unknown. Jen McNeely earned a name for herself in Canadian media as the founder of one of the biggest hit blogs of its time, She Does the City. So you may know her, recognize her name from her time there. But to properly introduce you to her as the guest on today's podcast episode, I'm actually going to read you the bio that she wrote for herself in her newsletter, which she publishes on Substack as the Midlife Rewrite. It goes like this: Drank for 17 years, sober for 14, left media to become an addiction counselor, returned to school at 45. Change is possible. Dare to rewrite your story. How's that for a love affair with the unknown? Here is my conversation with the very courageous and the very thoughtful Jen McNeely. Jen McNeely, hello, hello. Nice to chat with you again.
Hello, Jill.
Thanks for being part of this love affair with the unknown.
I'm honored.
What do you think of that, even that title, like the idea of being part of this? What does that even mean to you when you think about the unknowns in
Um,
life?
well, yeah, I mean, it resonates because I feel like definitely I've stepped into the unknown a few times.
Yes, you have. That's why we called.
Yeah, I feel like I'm in the unknown a little bit right now. So it's an exciting space to be in.
Mhm.
It's always daunting and a little anxiety inducing, but also exciting and full of possibility.
You said it. That's just bang on. And I love the attitude that you consistently have shown and written about in terms of that, um, navigating those unknowns and the uncertainties and the anxieties that come along with big change and stuff. But tell me, so you said that right now things feel quite unknown. Tell me what you're referring to there.
Well, I have
I mean, other than the state of the world, which is just a little one.
uh I guess almost 2 years ago now I left my career in media. I left Toronto. I left what I was the sort of comfort zone that I was in for a long, long time, and I didn't know what was next. So it's been a gradual process of kind of, I guess, exploration and play, and just kind of figuring out my footing in this next chapter. And even now, I am coming to the end, which is really hard to believe, of a post grad program in addictions treatment and prevention. And if you had asked me, it's a 1 year program, but if you had asked me like a year and a half ago where I was going, I don't even think I would know the direction.
Hmm.
So, and still, I don't really know the direction because this is a field where there's a lot of possibilities. I think a lot of people would say, the traditional route would be to become an addiction counselor after this.
Hmm.
But the more courses that I take within the program and the more that I'm reading, I realize, okay, well, it actually doesn't have to necessarily look like that. Even if that's something that I end up doing, which is maybe what I end up doing, but there's all these other areas I think that have potential as well. So I think, the unknown, you only start to find your way as you go through it. You never really
Hmm.
mapping out a plan. I mean, you may have some idea, but life takes you in interesting directions. So
It sure does. It's taken you in so many interesting directions. I want to rewind a little bit and talk about all the sort of flyers, the leaps that you have taken. In 2007, you
mm,
started She Does the City.
yeah.
You were working, you'd been a publicist, you were working at the CBC, and you had this idea to take a flyer and start a blog, which again, rewind 2007, this was a novel-ish thing. And so the idea of giving voice to women's experiences in the city of Toronto and what was happening in our city
Mhm.
through a female lens. I mean, that was maybe the first leap that you took. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I would say it's the first big leap for sure.
And then I believe it was 2010,
Mhm.
you a lot of what you'd been writing about and even thinking, and I read that even the genesis of the whole idea to start She Does the City
Mhm.
was born with a bunch of girlfriends in a backyard
Right?
drinking wine and beer.
Yeah.
So drinking was a big part of your life, as it is with a
Yeah.
lot of people's.
Mhm.
Um, and then in 2010, you took the leap into the big brave direction, I guess, of sobriety.
Mhm.
So yeah, that, and then I guess that's prompted your pursuit of the program that you mentioned, Addictions Treatment and Prevention
Yeah,
postgraduate
it's
program.
been a slow, steady, investigation into my own life. It's been a combination of sharing stories, from other women's stories, their recovery journeys, and kind of slowly is the operative word, because none of these shifts have happened overnight. It's been years of discovery. So yeah,
What do you think it is that prompts you to take bold steps? Because a lot of people are afraid to, they may not like where they're at, whether it's their patterns, their habits, their addictions, their job, their circumstances of one sort or another. A lot of people want to take a leap, but into the unknown, but
Mhm.
fear often holds us back.
Well, I would say that a lot of my wading into the unknown was sort of forced upon me. So, well, I guess the first one, She Does the City, yeah, it sort of comes with like a I can't go on in this direction type thing. And
Meaning you know that you're stuck and you just can't
yes,
continue.
yeah. So whether that's a mental thing or a physical thing or some kind of barrier, I think I think a lot of when I look back on being young and starting She Does the City, I think a lot of my moving in that direction was because I felt like it was very difficult for me to get taken seriously as a young woman in any realm, like in my career at that time, in media and entertainment. And I mean that's not to say I didn't have a lot of wonderful mentors, male and female, in the industries that I moved in, but film, entertainment, media was a tricky place uh, to just be valued. And so in a way, She Does the City was a response to that, to create a different universe where I didn't have to play within the rules outside.
Mm,
And it also just happened to be a time where there really was a lack of, there wasn't anything that spoke to young women in a real way at that time, at least none that I could find in Canada. I was very inspired by The Sweet Spot, which had come out, I don't know, like maybe a year prior or something like that. And it was this newsletter that would tell you about different things happening around town. Um, it was very pink and feminine and soft a little. It was safe, and I wanted something more edgy and real that reflected how I talk with my friends. So it was kind of like at the time, Now Magazine and I were around, and I kind of wanted that mixed with like a Vice feel for a younger women demographic. And I wanted a space for us to share our stories in the way we wanted to. So yeah, I guess it came out of a response of being frustrated. I remember sort of, different. I had a boss that was asking me to do his like luggage tag stuff, and I was like, oh my god, like I have a brain, like I have a
wow.
degree. I'm not, like, but I think because I was young and I looked very young at the time, I was a very young looking 26-year-old. I just got slotted, And it was also like it was the time, it was way before Me Too, and there was a lot of inappropriate sexual harassment running rampant. So, it was I had to figure out a different direction for my own sanity. So, yeah. So that was part of
Well,
it.
and you're still doing it. I mean, those same drivers have, well, perhaps different
Mhm.
specifics. I mean, you're not, but changing, leaving the media landscape
Yes, yes,
to now pursue something, your addictions counseling. And I should say, it would be disingenuous not to say, at the I just quit my job at the CBC at 58 years old after, with, in the midst of what other people would have described as a successful, career, as a broadcaster in a show that I loved, and a great, so on. So I'm interested in this selfishly too, but I also relate to that feeling of not having bosses who ask me to do their luggage tags. That part I'm not saying is the same, but wanting to know what else there is,
yeah,
and what else you might do, and the possibility that lies within the unknown
yeah,
has to have making the decision that the possibility that lies within the unknown has to outweigh the fear.
yes,
Does that resonate?
yes, yeah. Yeah, and I think for sure for me, the recent shift had a lot more to do with, how the media landscape had shifted so much and that the pace of it all felt unhealthy. So I think it's different in radio, and I think it's different when you're working for, an establishment like the CBC. Maybe you felt the same sort of, but online, the online space is so frantic, and so in 2007 to let's say 2017, the first 10 years, let's say, of She Does a City, people were not so even at the very beginning there was no social media. I mean, there was Facebook, but there was no Instagram, there's no Twitter, there's no TikTok. Basically, as you move along, you are competing for eyeballs, and people's attentions are getting more and more and more fragmented. So you have to kind of like make more noise, you have to jump around, you have to dance in your kitchen or whatever it is to get their attention. People are not consuming the same way. They're not. Um, there's so much choice, right? So the when the choice becomes abundant, you have to move faster, and um, and I think there's maybe like a shift of almost integrity because you're moving for clicks, you're moving for eyeballs, for like shock value, all these things. So it's just a different ball game, and I began to feel kind of just ill from how fast it all was going. So that was sort of the second, that in terms of the career, I think that was the second thing that I was like, I can't do this anymore because it's making me feel not good. Like,
Mhm.
and you know, um,
At that point, the cons of staying outweighed the pros
well,
of.
yeah, and then I think I got physically, like I had physical react because when you can first it's the maybe first your logic is like maybe this isn't the right fit for you anymore, but then when you sort of deny that, you kind of like you're not listening, then your body starts to react. So then my body really did start to react, and then eventually I think it was I got shingles, which is not a big deal, but it was like that
No,
was
it's not nice.
that was my body finally being like, hey, like you're not going to listen to us when we do this, we're going to make you feel the pain and like scream, um so yeah, that was sort of the needle that forced me to really walk away.
Mhm. Yeah, well, I relate to that too. I had long COVID for
Yeah.
20 months or so, and it's just an absolute physical shutdown. Not to say it was directly related to my job, but there was something physically, something untenable in life somehow that was
Mhm.
not, um yeah, so turning the page after a physical call from your body, I
Yeah.
get that. You've got a Substack now called The Midlife Rewrite.
Yeah.
I love that, and you talk about, going back to school at age 45, and like all these leaps that are just I'm just delighted by them. And in fact, you used the word, you called your decision on your Substack, you called your decision to leave your media career delightfully risky.
Right.
Tell me about the delight that you find in risk.
I think there's adventure in risk. Like you said, like the unknown. I think there's an opportunity to see how you move in different spaces and rediscover yourself, whether that's your passions, your talents, your. I think you mentioned it even in your recent newsletter about joys. Rediscovering small joys.
Mhm.
Um, I think I think as humans, we're naturally inclined to move in a pattern, right? And for the longest time, I was like, I feel like a hamster on a wheel and I'm just going and going and going. And I'm really having a hard time getting off this wheel. And I think it's our natural instinct to stay in those spaces because there's a sense of comfort, even if it's chaotic. Um, but when you finally are able to get off or you get thrown off, either way, then there is a delight in figuring out your new surroundings and starting fresh, right? Like it's like that feeling of a brand new chapter where you get to.
Well, it kind of wakes us up in some ways too. You talk about staying on that hamster wheel or whatever even if it's chaos, that pattern, and we're sort of parts of us can fall a little bit asleep
Yeah.
in that pattern.
Hmm.
And interestingly, and this I'm sure is not lost on you, least of all, but the idea that people lean on alcohol
Hmm.
and other substances to which we or habits that we can become addicted to manage you know, uncertainties. And
Right.
so you've come face to face with that in your own life and now studying and learning about those patterns of resisting change maybe. Is that part of
Yeah.
sort of the common thread of what happens within addictive behavior maybe? Or
Yeah,
part of it?
sure. Yeah, it is. I would say the pattern, it's like almost like addiction is like a numbing agent to maybe sometimes withstand whatever the chaos is that you are enduring. So like let's say if there's something going on in your life that you know is maybe unhealthy, whether that's work, like a dynamic at work or like a dynamic in a relationship. Um, it's easier to numb that with a substance than to necessarily look at it, like lay the cards on the table. And I think that in our day and age, like that kind of like idea of the few glasses of wine at the end of the day to take the edge off or whatever is also sort of keeping us in a pattern when you're in like a pattern like that where you're constantly thinking about that next thing. It's like you're craving it, you're consumed with the thought of it, you then consume it, then you feel a bit gross afterwards, and then you want it again, and it's like this sort of loop, right?
Mhm.
And so much of our society is designed to keep us in this sort of loop. Um, because it's tied to capitalism, like limbic capitalism is about like addictive stuff within consumerism and all these different things that keep us in that space. And I think there's a great amount of, so getting back to your delightfully risky, and I know that I'm kind of going in different directions here because I left work, but I think work was a bit of an addiction for me, to be honest. But uh when you are able to break free of these things, it's like, oh, like I don't have to do that today like this. I can try something else. I can
Hmm.
go in that direction. I can um and and there's a rebirth in that. There's like yeah, just like so much possibility when you can break free of things that have you sort of just in an unhealthy
Stuck in a
drive.
pattern.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
What do you think, because so many people we can read that, we can hear you say it, we can think that we believe in it, and but actually taking the steps is really hard.
Mhm.
What do you think that we generally get wrong when we think about change?
That we have to do it all at once. Um,
Hmm.
that's a big one. I think that, those New Year's resolutions can really haunt us because, like from now on, I'm gonna go to the gym every day, or I'm only gonna eat healthy, or I'm gonna, whatever it is.
Right.
I think that that kind of all or nothing can really be a stumbling block. I think just you can experiment slowly, and I would say that none of the things that I've done have happened again like overnight. Like and often I don't even see that I'm on that path of change until I'm sort of 6 months in, looking in the rearview mirror, right? Like it takes a lot of little small steps. So yeah, like even with going back to school, I didn't know if I would be a capable student because I hadn't been a student in many, many years. I was nervous that I would sort of sign up for something and then not complete it, all these kind of things. So, you can start small. So I started with a 6-week course that was online. And like, if I failed it, nobody had to know, like there was no stakes. Um, so I think that's the same, whatever that issue is that you're grappling with, whether it's like a work thing, a relationship thing, a phone addiction thing, a shopping thing. It's like just try small shifts within your week. Go for a walk, leave the phone at home, like
Hmm.
meet your friends for a film, or a hike instead of at a bar. Just try things a little bit differently, experiment, explore. I love that idea of like, treat it as an adventure. Like it's not um, necessarily a punishment, right? Like you actually don't know what it's going to feel like. So
I had a friend once say that, and she had a photograph on her wall of a series of photographs rather, and I would look at them and wonder why is she, that's just sort of a walkway on a lawn, and this other one's a path through the woods. And anyway, I eventually realized they were all pathways
right.
of a sort.
Yeah.
And she loved to talk about how we tend to think of making a change as permanent.
Hmm.
You have to, you're going to, I remember I left my job at Discovery Channel and thinking, "Oh, I'm going to do whatever the next thing is." But it doesn't, and the fear before I did it was tied to the idea that I could never go back to working in television again or whatever. Like the idea that whatever change we're making is permanent
Yeah.
is also so limiting, because really they're all, everything's just one step on a path.
Yeah.
And the path can turn again next week or next year, and which is another version of what you're saying, that it doesn't happen overnight. But you're so right. New Year's resolutions, which we all still get lulled into a
Yeah.
little bit, the idea of, oh, this is the, okay, this time, this turning of the clock, random page on a calendar, this is the time when I'm miraculously going to transform.
Mhm.
But that is so, yeah, it's a sucker. Like it's
Yeah,
such a
like it
false
works for some
promise.
people, but I think more often than not, it sort of sets us up to fail a little bit, or at least feel badly that we don't hit those goals.
Mhm.
But back to your friend with the path. Like I'm like, I love pictures of paths. I don't have them all over my wall. Maybe I should, but um, there's so many paths to get to an end goal, and that's something in recovery that is a huge, I would say, like a modern take on recovery is that, sobriety or recovery, you can take 1,000 different paths. And I believe that, as many of there are of us, is as many unique journeys there's going to be, right? So,
Right.
I think 15 years ago first got into when I first started going to AA or whatever, there was sort of like, okay, this is what you do. You go to the meetings, you get a
You
sponsor,
follow these
you
steps,
kind of
right.
do this, and this is how it is. And um, and that, it works for a lot of people. It doesn't work for a lot of people. And there are a million different paths, and it's the same for anything. So whether that's, career shifts or going back to school, there's so many different paths to get there.
What, again, I'm pulling something from one of your Substack posts on the midlife rewrite.
Hmm.
You said, "Isn't momentum fascinating?
Hmm.
It's the best feeling." Tell me about momentum and what it
Yeah,
feels like to you, what it looks like, and what it means to you.
I think momentum is when you start moving and you take steps. And the more you move, the more you realize you can keep moving. And it's a real physical thing. I think it's not about thinking about doing something, it's about doing something. And yeah, it's easy to, and momentum for me kind of swings a lot. Like I get big sort of momentous weeks where everything gets done, and then I'll hit like the next week and I'll sort of feel like I've lost that momentum. And I actually think that there's a lot of middle age stuff that happens with momentum. Like I find that, some weeks I'm just more tired than other weeks, or I'm dealing with perimenopause stuff or whatever it is. And and I have to remind myself that that's part of the process and that's okay. And I don't have to have this, full on momentum all the time. And of course, like family stuff comes up and things happen and people get sick and and so I think just to go easy on yourself, and then as soon as you feel like, okay, well, where is that momentum? And I'm speaking to myself right now, because when I wrote that was in late January, and I feel like my momentum has kind of dwindled a bit. And that is because, that this life throws things at us, and I think we all have to give ourselves also a bit of grace, like in these political times too. It's like sometimes you don't have the momentum, or sometimes the momentum is just like getting outside for a walk, or
Mhm.
um, doing what you need to do to kind of get through the day. So, yeah.
That's so true, and I wanna ask you about that sort of current political climate, and I mean the planet, the climate itself, and geopolitics, and so many destabilizing forces right now that are wildly uncertain. Life is full of unknowns that don't feel charming and
Right.
promising and delightful in any way.
Yeah.
That Pax Americana, as they say, that sort of global alliances and values that so many people for decades have grown up with as sort of the underpinning of the relative peace that we have been blessed with for the last much of our lifetimes is, yeah, seems in question or is certainly changing. And so what works for you
Mhm.
to manage the inevitable stressful responses to those kinds of unknowns?
Right. So, I mean, I'm constantly asking myself those questions because I think it's ever changing. But I think at this point in my life, I have figured out certain things that make me feel good, and certain things that make me, that kind of things that lift my energy, and things that kind of pull it down. And so, in these times where everything is extra heavy, I think really taking a moment to pause, be like, what is it that makes me feel good? So I know, like, if I get out for my daily walk, everything is better. So
Cheers
everything.
to that.
I
Uh,
know that you're a big walker too, but
I'll
it's
meet you
like,
out there. Yeah.
yeah, like fresh air and a walk. I'll sleep better. I will, have more patience. It gives me a moment to ground myself, to be mindful. Um, Everything just feels better. My body feels better. Also, laughing, like being with friends in real life, not texting, not sending messages on Instagram, going for a walk with a friend, meeting a friend, whatever. I mean, I'm a big tea person, but whatever it is you want to do. Um, Last night I went to a community film night a friend of mine has started. I live in the Beaver Valley now, so I live I my whole existence has shifted since I last talked
Which
to
is
you.
what, an hour or so north of
It's
Toronto.
like 3 hours.
You've moved out of the
It's
big
like
city.
3 hours once you sort of, take a bathroom break and get whatever on the way up. So, but, my friend has started this movie night where it happens every 2 weeks in this community hall, and people just come together, and last night he screened Amelie, which I hadn't
Oh,
seen since the
yeah.
'90s, and again, like, being with community, like, that's another thing, lifts me up. So I think knowing, and also what pulls me down. So honestly, when I find myself scrolling, people call doom scrolling, whatever it is. When I scroll,
Never ends well.
I feel sick. And now more than ever, because the algorithms have shifted, even if you look at like 5 years, 2 years, 6 months, things have become more and more, um, just have changed on social media platforms. So, um, I find that, yeah, so one of the things, I deactivated both those accounts. It's almost, and I did come out, like, it was like, I guess in mid-Jan, I was sort of feeling really angry at the world, and I did sort of come out with this big declaration that I was leaving Meta forever and blah 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 blah, and I put it on my Facebook, and everyone's like, yeah, 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 and then it took me a long time to actually leave, because I was like, oh my gosh, like, I have all these people, I only am connected to them on here, like, I have these groups. It took me this long time. Anyways, I'm off it for now and like experimenting, but um I might have to go back on for certain reasons. But anyways, I think I've got, but that
But it's heightened your awareness of the
it is
impact that
heightened
those things have
it
on you.
has heightened my awareness. And also, yeah, when I'm reading a great novel, I feel better and I'm inspired. So as soon as I finish a novel, if I have like a lull between when I pick up my next book, when I get into it, that I don't feel as good. So, I know these things about myself, and I think everybody has these things that they know about themselves. But I think in this day and age, it's harder and harder to remember sometimes, or to like, because we fall into this void of, because
Distraction.
distraction, because the world is created right now to distract us and pull us in, right? So it's difficult to kind of step away and be like, wait, hold on, this actually doesn't make me feel good. What is it that makes me feel good again? Oh yeah, when I go for a walk. Oh yeah, when I go meet my friends. And
Which I would argue is kind of another, um, point in defense of making change and taking leaps, big or small, is that it does yank us out of that distracted kind of, which is what you've been saying,
yeah,
but again, we kind of come to know ourselves and recognize those patterns. Oh, this isn't making me feel good,
yeah,
more easily when we force ourselves to disrupt the
yeah.
distracted pattern.
And the noticing is the key part, right? Like, that's sort of, a lot of people don't notice. I think I've been forced to notice things over my life because I've done them so hard that I've just like, done them to a degree where I've been forced to notice. I
Right,
think a lot of people, it's they maybe they don't have that, things haven't been as extreme, so maybe it's easier to not notice, to just
right,
cruise along. Um, but you have to notice all the time. Like, that's mindfulness, right? That's mindfulness in action, is just constantly noticing. How's this making me feel? What is it making me think? How's it,
mhm.
what am I not doing when I'm sort of stuck doing this? Yeah,
You mentioned that you're taking your walks in what must beautiful, according to the photos I've seen on your Substack and
yeah,
elsewhere, this beautiful countryside in the Beaver Valley.
yeah,
That's a really big leap also. That's a physical leap with your family. I
yeah.
mean, leaving downtown, busy, bustling Toronto where movies and culture and friends and food and, groceries and everything is, literally outside your doorstep,
Mhm.
on the biggest, platter.
Yeah.
And you made that's a lot of people dream of, "Oh, I want to escape the rat race or get closer to nature." Tell me what prompted that leap, because that's a big one.
Well, we were the classic, COVID exit. We came up here to ski in March of 2020, and we never went home. So and that story is a familiar one up here. There was we had a lot of privilege to be able to do that. Um, and once we were up here staying at my mom's house for a long time, we just decided, okay, well, what if we actually just didn't go back? Like, what if we ended up staying here? What if this was our new existence?
And
So
how are you managing that all the changes that come with that and the things that you've had to give up and the forging, developing
well,
new communities
it's
and
really interesting. At first, I was like, "No way is this a possibility," because when I walk at home on Dundas West, I am, like, stimulated by 1,000 different things. I have all my favorite coffee shops, like, my vintage clothing store, like, everything is at your fingertips, so much. Here, if I go for my walk, I'm only with frogs and squirrels and chipmunks and beavers and trees, and at first, that idea was not appealing to me. Like, there was some appeal, but I was like, "Where do how do I get to" it was such a different than what I was used to. Um, but I have to say that I do the same, like, square kind of 3-mile walk every day, um, and it completely fulfills me. And it's like, I notice, I have, like, certain trees and paths and little views that I have, and I'm not, starved for, uh, anything, like,
urban stimuli that you
no,
thought you might
no,
be.
and now it's actually I find the reverse when I go downtown. Like, I love having, like, a 24 hours in Toronto for, like, a cultural just energizer, right? But I do find I'm almost now my pace is so has shifted, and there's almost too much, certain areas, like Yonge Dundas is like, "Ugh, can't I can" I mean, probably a lot of people feel that way, but right in the thick of it. But Um, yeah, but going back to what you were saying about, the arts and culture, and I think we are living through a moment, and maybe, you're seeing this as you move to Substack, where people are kind of doing sort of similar what I did it with She Does a City back in the day, where it's like, you know what, I don't like what's happening over here. Whatever this is, I don't like. I'm gonna just move this direction, and I'm gonna start building something, and I'm gonna see, how that feels. And I think right now we're seeing thousands and thousands of people kind of exiting traditional, not even traditional anymore. Like, everything's sort of broken up and
Yeah.
whatever. But just I'm going to try to create a universe that I like. What are with people that I'm going to find the journalists that resonate with me. I'm going to listen to them. I am going to surround myself with voices that inspire and comfort and that kind of thing. And people have that opportunity right now, right? We
Hmm.
so I think that there's and I interviewed Anna Maria Tremonti when I was with She Does a City, kind of in the last little chunk of it. And I forget what she said exactly, but we were talking about media, and she was talking about journalism school and, like, how things have shifted so radically since 10 years, 15 years ago. And, it's like the next generation, it's like they are reinventing things. Everybody's reinventing. And so she didn't feel like a loss of hope. It's just things are changing.
So do you feel what are you hoping to change or influence in your sphere of influence on your Substack? The idea of the midlife rewrite, you
Yeah.
seem to be celebrating taking leaps, trusting yourself to venture forth in new directions and feel the aliveness that comes with taking risk and growing. I mean, is that the sphere of
No,
influence that you're trying to make resonate?
it is the sphere. I think I also, and I'm still figuring it out, because I don't know if I'm completely married to this idea at this point. I'm not I'm in my early days of navigating this new space. But I think, yeah, I've always been somebody who likes to share. And then I go through periods where I'm, like, sharing and sharing and sharing and sharing. Then I go through then I retreat, and I kind of, like, have quiet. blocks of time. And then I sort of miss the sharing. And then I guess right now, I do want to speak to women specifically who feel like too stuck in 2 different ways, right? Stuck, whether that's like career, um, personal life, where there's opportunity for shifts and maybe they think they can't. Like, I honestly didn't when I stopped She Does the City, I was like, "Oh, well, that was a nice career. I guess I'll just sort of like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I gotta figure something out," but I had no idea. And now I honestly feel like I'm at the beginning of something again, and there is energy behind that. But I didn't think I would ever feel that way again. Um,
Hmm.
and so I guess I wanted to share that people can take those leaps. They can shift things
Yeah.
180 degrees, you know?
Just hearing that, I mean, is encouraging to a lot of people
Yeah,
to
and then
know
I
that.
also I guess I and then when it comes to sort of addiction, it's like also, I wanna share the knowledge that I've gained in the past couple of years of what I've learned and help people break free of those things, whether it's themselves or just equipping them with knowledge to help other people. Um, so yeah, there's definitely I feel like there's sort of kind of 2 big areas that I wanna address, and sometimes I'm like, maybe I should just focus on one or the other, but I do think that they kinda overlap and,
Mhm.
um, yeah,
Yeah, they definitely overlap, and you're doing it. I mean, you're starting and onward. The momentum will come in spurts, and it's already, you already, certainly touched my heart with the work that you're doing and how much it
yeah,
resonates with me, so that's why I wanted to talk to
yeah.
you. Thank you so much for yeah, for talking about your own love affair with the unknown. It's really, it is inspiring and exciting to hear about all the things you're doing and your attitude and relationship with change. Bravo.
Thank you, Jill. Well, definitely as soon as you reached out, I was like, "Okay, here's some more momentum. Now I've got Jill's giving me a kick to keep going." Um,
Yep, not allowed to stop now.
and that's really where it comes from, right? It's when other people, like, kinda cheer you on and whatever that looks like, it keeps you going. So,
Keep going.
yeah.
Thank you so much
Yeah.
for the chat, Jen. Really great to
Always
talk
a
with you.
pleasure. Thank you, Jill.